Hi, I'm Grace, and I'm going to tell you about how the Animal Welfare Act is a good act. It's a good bill that was passed in Congress, but it does not cover everything that, like every animal involved in animal testing or research. So not every animal in testing or research is being protected. Like birds, snakes, fish, stuff like that aren't protected, but cats, dogs, stuff like that are being protected. And how we need to try to change what's happening with that act. So there are many bills and acts that get brought to Congress, but not all of them get put through. Like they'll be introduced and then that day they'll shoot down that act, or they just won't use it. It's not what they want, not what they need. And there's some pros to animal testing. Like I'll give it that. Like a lot of research, a lot of good things have been figured out and breakthroughs have been made. Like the polio vaccine, it went from thousands and thousands of people having polio like decades ago to now less than 10 cases a year. And how surgeries can be practiced on animals, like breathing, living things. Like whenever people had to get their pancreas removed, they tested it on dogs first, and now people can get that surgery done and they know how to do it safely. And they also do like cancer research and drug research with animals, and they get a lot of good results and stuff that they've learned and can use in from previous research can use now. But there are some cons to testing. So not every test now, like drug research, stuff like that, we don't need animals for it anymore, because a lot of drug research on animals is not usable or very reliable whenever we put it with human testing. So human trials will have different results than what was gathered during the animal trials or experiments. With the animals, they metabolize things differently, they react differently, but with people, whenever they would get to like human trials, the success rate would be under 15%, so it was like around 12% was the average. And there are more alternatives now than there were in the past. Now there's like three big ones. So there's the organs on chips is what everyone calls it pretty much. They can make little tiny organs or organ systems on a little tiny microchip basically, and that can mimic or function as like a liver, lungs, kidneys, or intestines, or even the heart. So they can test it there instead of using an animal, and it's cheaper, it has better results. And that was from the microfluidic organs on chips, that source. And then there's also the silico testing. So that is basically like they use computer models, computer systems to generate a simulator basically. So they'll use all like the research previously gathered, things that they already know, and put it into an algorithm and run it in the generator or simulation to do organs or complete organ systems. And it's less expensive than animal testing, it's reliable, and it was better for whenever they had to like conduct drug research. They can use that instead of using dogs, cats, birds, whatever they want to use, and they would get better results and predict outcomes better. So whenever they would like potentially get to the human trials, they would already know what to do, what to expect, and what to prepare for. And that was from the Animal Welfare Act and Alternatives to Animal Testing source. And I use the same source for the next animal testing alternative, which is in vitro testing. So in vitro testing is kind of like they get human cells or tissues of certain organs or whatever they want to test with, and they put it basically in like a petri dish, like it's in a controlled environment. They control everything about it, where it's at, what's being used with it, and they have better outcomes with it, because with like living animals, they can do a lot more damage to themselves. Kind of like you can't predict every outcome that an animal will provide or anything like that. But it's basically they just study it in a petri dish, so it's in one spot, it can't move, nothing else can affect it unless you add an outside source. And then human and animal bodies are different, so they react different, they'll give you different results, and 92% of drugs fail whenever they get to the human trial stage. So all that research that was with like the animals, wasted, whatever they did before, doesn't matter because it doesn't apply to people, because we all have different systems, we all react differently, you can't control what's happening. And that was from the sources. They're an end in sight for animal testing. And also like they can cure things on animals, they can cure it, they can make vaccines for it, but they can't do it with people because we aren't the same. It's like it was the previous, let me just double check, the previous director of the National Cancer Institute. They cured cancer repeatedly like decades ago for mice, but they can't do it for people. So everything that they gathered then, it doesn't apply now to the people because we aren't the same, we all react differently. And so these animals are just basically being like wasted on this research when they could be out living, doing whatever they want, making someone else happy, instead of having to be caged up and tested. Because the Animal Welfare Act, it protects only certain ones, like dogs and cats, so we don't use those as often. We'll use other animals in testing. And we don't get good results. We don't get results that we need or are looking for. And so this act only protects a few of them, and now we have other options that are cheaper, reliable, and have less room for error, and we can't use those because people just don't want to switch. They don't want to change. People don't like change. But since this act, like, it's a good act, and we change it and update it every few years since we've gotten it. Like, I have a chart here, like, this is past, this is present. We use less animals in research now, which is a plus. This is why we should support this act, try to, like, write letters, get it, like, spread the word about it. It's a good act. We need to try to think of positive ways that we can, like, get it out there. Thank you for listening.